This is the early edition, a curated weekday guide to major news and developments over the past 24 hours, curated by Lizzie Jennings and read by an automated voice. Published March 16, 2026 on Just Security, an essential resource for those shaping a just and secure world. Here's today's news. Iran war. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Friday called for no quarter, no mercy for our enemies during a press briefing. Legal experts have warned that any order resembling no quarter is illegal. Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat Arizona, said on Friday, "No quarter isn't some wannabe tough guy line, it means something," adding it would be an illegal order. It would also put American service members at greater risk. Lauren Floyd reports for Axios. The Pentagon is sending an amphibious assault ship, the USS Tripoli, and its Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Middle East, a senior U.S. official said on Friday. The deployment will add thousands of Marines, several warships, and F-35 fighter jets to the region. The official said U.S. Central Command asked for the new force in order to expand its military options against Iran. Josephine Walker and Barack Ravid report for Axios. President Trump on Saturday called on other countries to send warships to the Middle East to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump named China, Britain, France, Japan, and South Korea in his post on social media. On Sunday, Trump warned NATO that it faced a very bad future if members did not help reopen the strait. Trump also threatened to delay a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping, which is expected to begin at the end of the month. Trump spoke with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer yesterday, but no details were disclosed about whether Britain would contribute ships. Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi said today that Japan has no plans to send warships. Ravi Mattu reports for the New York Times. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said yesterday that there were no guarantees that oil prices would fall in the coming weeks. Avery Lotz reports for Axios. 5 missiles struck the Baghdad International Airport yesterday, injuring 4 people, according to Iraqi authorities. The Iran-backed Iraqi group Kataib Hezbollah said it had launched the attack, adding that its rockets had struck Camp Victory, a former U.S. base within the airport complex. The attack followed a strike against the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad on Saturday, and a warning from the embassy that U.S. citizens should leave Iraq immediately. The Israeli military said it had hit bases of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Basij militia in the western part of Iran. Also yesterday, the United Arab Emirates reported a sharp drop in Iranian attacks. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told CBS News yesterday that Iran was not ready to negotiate with the United States, despite Trump saying on Saturday that Iran wanted to make a deal. Efrat Livni reports for the New York Times. Fossil fuel dependency is ripping away national security and sovereignty, and replacing it with subservience and rising costs. UNFCCC Executive Secretary Simon Steele is set to tell EU policymakers today. Kate Abnett reports for Reuters. Iran likely carried out the most significant wartime cyber attack on the United States, disrupting operations at medical equipment company Stryker last week, and forcing tens of thousands of employees offline. U.S. officials say the attack, claimed by the Iran-linked hacking group Handala, shows Iran's growing cyber capabilities, and warn that more cyber attacks on U.S. businesses could follow. Dustin Voles and Peter Loftus report for The Wall Street Journal. Lebanon. The Israeli military said today that it was expanding its ground assault into southern Lebanon. Asked whether Israeli forces intended to hold the areas into which they were advancing, the Israeli military spokesperson Nadav Shoshani said this had yet to be determined. Israeli officials said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was trying to contain the Lebanon escalation to stay focused on Iran. However, the officials said that changed last Wednesday, when Hezbollah launched more than 200 missiles in a coordinated attack with Iran. Aaron Boxerman reports for the New York Times. Barack Ravid reports for Axios. The French government has drafted a proposal to end the war in Lebanon that would require the Lebanese government to recognize Israel, 3 sources said. Israel and the United States are reviewing the proposal. Lebanon has accepted the plan as the basis for peace talks, the sources said. Israel's Haaretz newspaper reported on Saturday that Israel and Lebanon are expected to hold direct talks in the coming days. Barack Ravid reports for Axios. Mayan Lubel and Nazi Asiran report for Axios. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said on Saturday that 12 doctors, paramedics, and nurses were killed in a strike on the Burj Khalifa primary healthcare center in Lebanon on Friday. Since March 2nd, Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 31 health professionals and wounded 51 others, the Lebanese health ministry said on Saturday. Israel-Gaza war. Israeli airstrikes yesterday killed at least 12 Palestinians in Gaza, including 2 boys, a pregnant woman, and 8 police officers, according to health officials. Sami Magdi reports for AP News. West Bank violence. Israeli soldiers fatally shot 4 Palestinians, 2 young children and their parents, in the West Bank on Saturday night. 2 surviving sons said the family had been out driving and pulled over so that their mother could get something from her bag, when suddenly the car was being shot at. The Israeli police and military on Sunday said the authorities sensed danger after a vehicle accelerated towards them and responded by shooting. David M. Helpfinger, Natan Odenheimer, and Fatima Abdul Karim report for the New York Times. Other global developments. Pakistani airstrikes have killed at least 75 civilians and displaced 115,000 in Afghanistan, according to the United Nations. The strikes have hit residential areas, civilian infrastructure, and over 20 healthcare facilities since February 26. Afghanistan's army has struck Pakistan with light drone attacks and raids on border posts. Both nations have claimed high casualties against the other, vowed to keep fighting, and ignored calls by China and other regional powers to talk. Elian Peltier and Safiullah Padshaw report for the New York Times. U.S. Foreign Affairs. The U.S. group Mass Resistance discussed campaign strategy and mobilization tactics with Senegalese activists pushing for anti-LGBT legislation. There's a renewed push to put in place these strict bans on the promotion and proliferation of LGBT ideology now, because President Trump is not in the business of harassing and bullying countries to incorporate these destructive ideologies, Mass Resistance Field Director Arthur Schapper told Reuters. Senegalese lawmakers last week approved the new law, which doubles the maximum prison term for same-sex sexual acts to 10 years. Robbie Corey-Boulet reports. U.S. Caribbean and Pacific operations. Legal experts told the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights that the U.S. military's campaign of bombing suspected drug smuggling boats violates both international and U.S. law. Carol Rosenberg reports for the New York Times. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel announced on Friday that his government had been holding talks with the Trump administration amid an increasingly severe fuel shortage. This is the first time Cuba has acknowledged talks were underway. Diaz-Canel said a development to be announced on Monday would greatly facilitate the participation of Cubans abroad in the island's economic and social development program, strongly suggesting that the government would allow Cubans overseas to invest in the economy. Francis Robles, Patricia Mazet, and Daryl Pradas report for the New York Times. State Department officials detailed a comprehensive strategy to stop Western Hemisphere countries from relying on Cuban medical assistance, according to a February 23 memo to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The memo says the State Department is offering countries that agree to stop employing Cuban doctors support for infrastructure and modernization. Nahal Tusi and Eric Bazale-Amel report for Politico. U.S. immigration developments. The State Department is reducing the consular fees for renouncing U.S. citizenship from $2,350 to $450, according to an update published in the Federal Register on Friday. Ali Watkins reports for the New York Times. U.S. domestic developments. The local Rock Volunteer Fire Department in Sand Springs, Tulsa, declined a $250,000 donation from Google earlier this month, saying accepting it could appear to betray community members who oppose the development of a large data center. A group of Sand Springs residents has filed lawsuits seeking to stop the data center from being built. Adil Hassan reports for the New York Times. A federal jury on Friday convicted 8 people of providing material support to terrorists in connection with the July 4th shooting at a Texas immigration facility that federal prosecutors tied to Antifa. Today's verdict on terrorism charges will not be the last, as the Trump administration systematically dismantles Antifa, and finally halts their violence on America's streets, Attorney General Pam Bondi said. Jamie Stengel reports for AP News. Broadcasters must operate in the public interest, and they will lose their license if not, Federal Communications Commission Chair Brendan Carr said on Saturday. Carr accused broadcasters of running hoaxes and news distortions about the war in Iran. Carr shared a Truth Social post by Trump that criticized news media coverage, including the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. In a similar vein, Hegseth delivered a complaint about CNN's coverage of the war on Friday, saying, "The sooner David Ellison takes over the network, the better." Ashley Ahn reports for the New York Times. Michael M. Grinbaum reports for the New York Times. A political fundraising group called Never Surrender Inc., linked to Trump, sent an email on Thursday using a photo of him saluting coffins of U.S. soldiers killed in an Iranian drone strike, asking supporters to donate in exchange for access to private national security briefings. Edward Wong reports for the New York Times. Trump administration actions. Energy Secretary Chris Wright issued an order on Friday paving the way for a company operating off the coast of California to restart an oil pipeline that state officials have kept offline since 2015. The directive invoked the Defense Production Act, a 1950 law that gives the president broad powers over domestic industry in the interest of national defense. Trump signed an executive order earlier on Friday, delegating some of his authority under the law to Wright. Noah Bouston reports for Politico. Trump administration litigation. A federal judge on Friday blocked the Trump administration from ending temporary protected status for more than 1,000 Somalis. In the order, the judge wrote that the government had not filed a brief or even assigned a lawyer to represent the government in the lawsuit seeking to block the order. Chris Cameron reports for the New York Times. A federal judge dismissed the Justice Department's subpoenas sent to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, according to a filing unsealed on Friday. The judge accused the Trump administration of using the criminal investigation to pressure Powell into lowering interest rates. Courtney Brown reports for Axios. A federal judge on Saturday ordered that Representative Joyce Beatty, Democrat, Ohio, be allowed to participate in a planning meeting about the future of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Zach Montague reports for the New York Times. Thank you for listening to Just Security's Early Edition today, March 16, 2026. If you enjoy listening, Just Security's analytic articles are also available in audio form on the justsecurity.org website. To stay up to date on Just Security's analysis of law, policy, and current events, go to justsecurity.org. Subscribe to Just Security on Substack, and follow us on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.